tau mawhaile sui au ao ina ia to e whaopopoina mai la whangota Amerika Samoa i tonu le sami whaasao. Whaopopot nisi mo lianga whaasanga i le sunga asu mai time. E whaatalo whātu Amerika Samoa lau whaafonga le nei tu lau le fiafi, e ala nisi o whaapopongo tala mai lau KVZK TV, sa whasiringi ele mata upu e tau ma le whainga pālota i Swains, i le taimi o whilafulafua ina i le mata upu e tusa ma le komisina o le ofisa o pālota, lea ua pāsia lea ia o toke lau i le whaavai, e ala le pālota o le sui mai le motu i tutono le mauta o sui, o le sainia i le whailau tusi o le interior, wa aloa ia ai le sui mai Swains i whainga upu whai a le territory. Sa whasiringia le awhionga le Perisiteno le Senate le komsina o le ofisa o pālota pe ua iei se whaatatau a wale whaatinoina o pālotanga Swains i whainga pālota a le atinu i le lumanai.
Wa lima swinga o le whaavai le ua umang pasi a kausanga le o kausanga pāloka. O le ale proses le la whaonga le sui le o koilau.
Whafkai koe lau whianga i Pleskenge, o le kulanga le alo ka oko aile kula fongo. E whau ele ofisio paloka ia le palokanga a koe lau. Swains Island lea e ole le ofisio paloka i Swains Island e whakau waile ia le palokanga lea. Pe ka iange la ua o ngeile le vai kemi ua le eise isi o le moku. Ua o maia ula ofisa. Ia pia ua whaia o le palokanga koe lau mamao. Ia koe ia Swains Island. O le a whaia i kongu o le whale paloka. Ia aile o kukongu o le kulafongo. Pia o le meanga ua whaukuaia ue ngisi a fo ia o le ofisa i whakasia ima le loia. Pia e kauanga koe a whea maka upunga ia Swains Island inga ia kusai ma kulafongo. A o le ofisa ia paloka. Ia le ewa wa muka le malusi o le ingisi i koe lau me whaiaionga o whakaunguia ia kiukia le ofisa.
O se tasa Vasilia le awhionga le Perisiteno le Senate ia atua olo mana i Swain, pe o le ale whainga o le pālota Swains, pe o tutusa ma le pālota ina, o isi whaipule o le mauta o sui e tusai matu la fono, pe tai o le whaatinoina o le tōwhinga o le sui o Swains, e whaia i eli fina ngalo o tō tino le motu i se whaatasinga e maasani o na whaia.
Alu nge kalangoa ma le loia.
Loia.
O le alisi a wala kau whaiene mele wa lela saunga le paroka kau sakafo. Ua maua mai mele kau whea koeri ui. Langa e anwhia i sui o i ku maroringi. O la e whiri a lakangaka. Paroka. E la whainga le mea ngai sui mua koe lau waile. Maua le pala vangoe paroka. E lea lau paroka. E ka kau ngela e lokar ku ngaui le proses leo i uma ya sui umangi o i ku malo. Kau ngale skala. Whauru i ngopo e o e kau wā. Ua maua mai.
Ia e rau whianga le Pleskenge i o le pia kulanga ngā i e kau a waku a whaire se karanguanga o suiange i e kaunga o i le district o ngofo aia po ia le suinge i o le mauka. Ia peka iange ngā e lo ngungumi a whaia ia mako po le alku e ngā parokango le a whaiai.
Nuni asulele mai lau KVZK News. O se tasi o mata upu sa whaalia le sui au au Amerika Samoa le konkeresi o le toa te talaina o le avanoa e mawhai e o na whangotaina se tasi o vaenga o le o ngā Sami o le Pasifika ua whaatu la whanoina i le malo tele e whai mawhaasao e ta o le Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument. O loo talasanga ina le awhionga ia au mua a mata le 5 le luase lau maila mai matawhanga o le atunuu e mawhai ei o na whangotai le territory a walo na ati nae ma le tausinga o le fofonga tau mafa o le mamalo le atunuu. I le ngata i lea ai o se awale mawhai ei o na iloa ma ripotia wa a whaangota mai isi atunuu o lo soli tu la fono ua whaatatitia mo lea vaenga o le sami. O se tasi fo e o vanoa sa fofonga ina ai e le sui au au le taua tele o le iei o se ofisa le Coast Guard i Amerika Samoa nei. A wale saunga le mu o lo na ngata i fale ma le leo leo ina mai nisi o atunuu e peo saina. I ripoti mai le whamsinonga, o le lona luai leo o tangi u whaoluina le ofisa o le loia silia le atunuu, e whaasanga le sunga ia su mai time, e ese mai nisi o na molianga sa tula iai i lumo le whamsinonga i se taimi o sola. O le nei mata upu e tau i ona tua inga i le telepefale, ma oso wha ia i le ofisa o whaatoanga i tafuna, e luas fulu afe tala ua whaatonuina ai le whamsinonga, e tutongia whaato ati talai e talia so lona whaamasinonga e tusa malia mata upu. Ua toe taliu i Hawaii le vaenga le Coast Guard sa sia lo tātou atunuu, ma whaatinuina a lātou ngā luenga i le ngā taifale o Amerika Samoa, e sili atu ma le masina sa whaaupeo ai le Joseph Gerzak i o ngā Sami o le territory. Sa tu wa ese mai Honolulu le va ale Joseph Gerzak mai le nofuanga autua le Coast Guard i le whaiunga le masina wa te nei ai malanga mai mo Amerika Samoa. Sa whaatautia si singa masu esu e ngā le Coast Guard i le vaenga Sami e ta ua le EEZ po le Exclusive Economic Zone e lua se lau maila mai le territory le lau te lo le vaenga Sami e mawhai le atunu o na whangotaina ma Asia. O nei asia singa i tutono le vaenga sa mawaini se o soli ngā tū la fono, a nisi o maafangota i le leai o ni pepa wha maunia, wha le tonu vaenga i lungo le vaa e wha o ngā ina mo ngā luenga la veai i taimi o wha lave lave. Ma nisi mafua anga i le pasi e na le Coast Guard e tu sahai ma tū la fono. Sa toi wha afo i mai i le wafu, nisi o nei vaa se ia mai o na whaia umafuafuanga e tu sa ma le tū la fono. Nunu yaso lelei mai lau KVZK News. E tolu sifulu ma le wha sui fai pule o le palemene o Samoa sa pālota ina i le ioe a e se fulu lima e na pālota i le leai i le lafo na tuina atu e le taitai o le vaenga ngai al malo le afionga e atu i la epa sa i lele e pālota ina ai le mata upu o le lefa atu atua ina o le afionga i le palemia i afia me na o mi mata afa e avea mata itai o le atu nuu. E leo pose lilo i le silafia, le ngase a malo o lo fea ngai ma Samoa, le ana afuai o na o le palemene i le atulanga, sa ili fina ngalo suita itasi, e ala i la lata o tusi a au, pe tai sa mafuli le telo to tino le vaenga fa upufai al fast, e te ena le lafo sa fatuina. Na o fie le saunoanga le tai o le HRPP, le fautuanga le fainga malo ma le vaenga ale fast, e le tino le file mu i le tōninga o lo lātou la e ia, a ia ngā lulu e whaatasi ma le taitai o le malo, a wase manui o le atunuu. Nā tangia le saunoanga le afionga le palemia, le tatau o na ngā lulu e ma whaasoa whaatasi ma tā upu, e tā atu i le fausiaina o Samoa, ina ia manuia i aso i luma.
E tu mau le lafo, ale vaenga whai le nei. A fai o iai se finangalo o le sui whato a wha mawai atu neli to i file mu le atu nu aluange kau kua fie me. O mai uma mautou. A mea lai ko fai ko nginga whapenga. Ma whaatara lau ko whake a fie me. A fai ko karikong awal whangu kunkulua. Mena le tupu lei. Ma losi whangutu lua. A fai o finangalo le wei a te utou. O mai e la kolanga le whenga malo fi me. Ia lau whionga le whonga talai. O putu sao ia.
E le o iai le sui o le pā. E le o iai le sui o nganga i maunga numi le tonu. E le o iai fo i le sui o lotu whanga le tau talatu. E peona whonasia e se sui whai pule o le mauta. O le ta'alonga le nei o le ta'alonga o whainu mera. O lau mau tau a fionga. E se fulu balu le whainu mera a le sui o le pā. O le tua ngai. E lua se fulu. Le fai numera le sui o nganga I fo maunga numero tolu. Ai se fulu lima le fai numera o le sui o lo tufanga. O ia fai numera e mamau mai le numera fulisia o le luas fulu manfitu. Ai tasi lona lau fionga le funga fitarai. O le se fulu lima lea e ia te au o lau kapeneta o le pule fatonu o lo o apu ele tu la fon fa vai e fa foi ina le malo.
Ma o tātou tala mulimuli le nea fiafi mai le Pasifika, ua ripoti e le matanga luenga o le soifua malolo ina a Tonga, le toa ono sifuru lima ua afia le wha mai o le dengue fever i le taiminei, o nisi o fuafuanga a wale tau mawhainga, ina ia whaiti le pepesi o le wha mai, e au fia e le tufa ina o tali namu, ino fuanga o lo o tele e le namu, wha apea wha manatu o le matanga luenga, I te tono a onga ma ainga inu te itasi o Tonga. O tangata e ono sifuru lima ua mau ele nei wha mai, e mai Tonga tapu, wawau ma e ua, ele o muta ele ngā luenga tau longolongo, ele mamalu le atunu, ina ia nofo uta ma malama ia unga ma afianga o le nei wha mai. Usi maia lau whaafunga ma lau mai moa, inisi o tala o le tau ma le tai mo Amerika Samoa. O le awhaia se whaatalatala noanga whalau e tele a le senate, manise o sui o le atunu o lo ofia moli mau, e tusa mapili tau whaofi, toluiva, wha, ma le toluiva, lima, e whaatatau I le palo teina o tau whinga o le kovana ma le sui kovana Amerika Samoa. Whapeni se o whapoponga I anga wao I latou, o le atau wamo nei tau whinga le atunu, o le awhaia lea whaamoimoi le ato luas fuluono le maasina nei, I le afo le valu I le tae ao I le maoto le senate I whangatongo. I se ngā luenga tu whaatasi a le ofisa o le ARPA Oversight, ma ta ngā luenga o ngā luenga lau tele ma le whale tupe o ati inae, e wala au lia I le mamalu le atunu o lo iai anga waa ma lai sene ka muta I se whaatasinga I le aso lima o le masina o mati o le tausanga nei, I le afo le wha I le awauli se ia pa ia le afo le ono I le afiafi, e whaia lea whaatasinga I le whale lau mei I utulei. Whaaftai tele lo whaatasi mai Amerika Samoa le nei afiafi I whaopoponga o tala mai lau KVZK TV. Whaaftai le whaatasi mai tau whaasefua. Election Office Commissioner queried by Senate on status of Swain Island's electoral process. Amata requests a fishing opportunity for American Samoa at the Pacific National Marine Monument. Sumai Time charged in different burglary case. Talo Falava and welcome to your evening news here on KVZK TV. During the confirmation hearing for Dr. Uyangalele Lealofi, the acting commissioner of the election office, the election process for the Swains Island delegate to the House of Representatives was discussed.
Senate President Tua'olo Manaiafuin addressed recent constitutional amendments that now allow the delegate from Swains Island to participate in House votes. Tua'olo queried the election office's plans for managing the electoral process for Swains Island. Specifically, he sought clarification on whether the upcoming elections would follow the same voting procedures as those used for House members, or continue with the current practice where residents of Swains Island meet to elect their representatives directly. In response, the acting election commissioner, Dr. Uyangalele Lealofi, explained that the traditional procedure involved his office traveling to Swains Island to oversee the election of their representative. However, upon taking office, he found no residents living on Swains Island. This necessitated a shift in protocol, prompting the need for election to be conducted at the Central Election Office instead. Uyangalele noted that, intriguingly, no existing law explicitly outlines how the election process for the Swains Island delegate should be adapted to align with the recent constitutional changes. Acknowledging the complexities of this situation, Tua'olo suggested that Uyangalele consults with legal experts to ensure that the electoral process remains fair and just. He underscored a critical inequity in the current system, wherein House members can actively participate in elections while Swains Island representative is appointed, disenfranchising the island's constituents. Tua'olo emphasized the fundamental principle that every member of the House, regardless of their constituency, should be subjected to the same electoral process, which includes registering to vote and being elected through a fair election. This, he argued, is essential to uphold the democratic values that the House of Representatives represents. Joya Tafengai Mali with your news on KVZK.
Congresswoman Uifaatali Amata has called to reopen fishing in the Pacific Marine Monuments to support local economies and sustainable practices. Accompanied by Governor Pulali Nicolau Pula, Amata made the comments in D.C. last week during key meeting of the Interagency Group for Insular Areas.
The proposal to reinstate fishing activities in the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monuments, specifically between 50 and 200 miles offshore, is essential for protecting the U.S. fishing industry. This initiative echoes recommendations by the former secretary during the Trump administration. In 2017, significant portions of the Pacific Ocean have faced increasing restrictions on fishing access imposed without adequate scientific jurisdiction or consultation with affected local communities and fishermen. The Congresswoman emphasized that this matter is also linked to national security. The rise of illegal and unreported fishing, combined with China's growth influence in the region, poses significant challenges as the U.S. fishing fleet declines. She advocates for establishing a permanent Coast Guard station in American Samoa to enhance security. The presence of Coast Guard vessels would deter malign influences from China. Given American Samoa's superior deep water port capabilities, it is well positioned to host multiple Coast Guard cutters. Additionally, the Congresswoman highlighted the need to support the economic stability of the islands. She has also introduced legislation H.R. 399 to make the American Samoa Economic Development Tax Credit permanent, promoting business investment in this isolated territory. In her remarks, the Congresswoman urged the administration to acknowledge the unique relationship between American Samoa and the United States, despite being classified as U.S. nationals rather than U.S. citizens. The people of American Samoa show steadfast loyalty to the United States of America. As the administration considers reforms to Medicaid and other essential benefits typically designated for citizens, she requests that this committed group is not overlooked due to their technical designation. The 125-year relationship between American Samoa and the federal government is built on mutual respect and enduring partnership that she believes the new administration will honor. Julieta Mali with your news on KVZK.
In our court news, the Attorney General's office has initiated its second legal proceeding against Swain in connection with an additional burglary case. Bail has been established at $20,000. Mr. Time is currently facing charges related to the break-in at the Department of Agriculture's main office in Tafuna. The defendant is facing 1 count of burglary second degree, stealing, and trespassing. Court documents indicate that the incident was reported to law enforcement on February 4th of this year. The office had been thoroughly ransacked, and a flashlight, several T-shirts, and 3 10-pound yellowfin fish were stolen. The police recovered these stolen items after Mr. Time and an accomplice were apprehended on the same day while attempting a separate burglary near the Department of Agriculture's office. During the interrogation, Mr. Time denied any involvement in the break-in. However, his co-defendant provided information indicating that he was, in fact, the instigator of the burglary. Nunu Yaslele with your KVZK News. The crew of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Joseph Gorsek returned home to Honolulu following a 37-day territorial integrity patrol along the U.S. maritime border in American Samoa. The Joseph Gorsek crew departed Coast Guard base in Honolulu on January and traveled more than 7,300 nautical miles spanning from the Hawaiian Islands to American Samoa. The crew patrolled the U.S. territorial maritime border and safeguarded the U.S. exclusive economic zone surrounding American Samoa, which extends up to 200 miles offshore. During the patrol, the crew conducted boardings on 2 U.S.-flagged fishing vessels to ensure the territorial integrity of the U.S. maritime border and deter any threat of illicit trafficking. The crew also ensured the safety of the U.S. fishing fleet by reviewing the vessel's documentation, examining the captain's permits, and inspecting the vessel's required safety equipment, fishing gear, and, when applicable, the onboard catch. The crew worked alongside a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Office of Law Enforcement officer who assisted the boarding team in identifying 2 living marine resource violations for which the vessel was cited. The cutter's boarding team observed 10 total violations, including a non-U.S. master who was neither a U.S. citizen nor U.S. national, expired documentation, and an expired survival craft, expired hydrostatic releases for emergency position indicating radio beacons, expired flares, unsatisfactory condition of life jackets, and damaged turtle mitigation gear. Due to safety violations, the Joseph Gorsek crew terminated the voyage of 1 fishing vessel and escorted the vessel to port in Pango, American Samoa. Coast Guard law enforcement boardings and vessel safety inspections are vital to ensuring safety of those at sea and protecting our precious marine ecosystems, said Lieutenant Caitlin Piker, Commanding Officer Cutter Joseph Gorsek. Our patrols also enhance the maritime domain awareness and serve as a critical line of defense against illegal activities that threaten our nation's security. In accordance with the President's executive orders and direction from Admiral Kevin Lundy, the acting commander of the Coast Guard is increasing cutter patrols and operations in American Samoa. The Coast Guard is surging assets to increase presence in key areas to protect America's maritime borders, territorial integrity, and sovereignty. Nunu Yasulele with your KVZK News. In our news from Apia, the vote of no confidence to unseat Prime Minister Fiame Naomi Mataafa and her cabinet failed when the Legislative Assembly on Tuesday voted with 34 members opposing the motion and 15 for it. The motion was prompted by a split in the ruling FAST party, which saw Fiame leading a minority government. But in a shock move yesterday, FAST members voted alongside Fiame's faction to register a resounding defeat against opposition leader Tuilaepa Dr. Sailele Malielegaoi's motion. During the parliamentary session, former Prime Minister Tuilaepa Dr. Sailele Malielegaoi, who also leads the Human Rights Protection Party, addressed the FAST chairman La'auli Lewatea Schmidt. Tuilaepa challenged Schmidt to demonstrate his commitment to peace by agreeing to serve in Fiame's administration, emphasizing the importance of unity in the political landscape. In his remarks, Tuilaepa urged members of the FAST party to align themselves more closely with the government rather than distinguish themselves by wearing their party uniforms. He argued that such distinctions only create division and undermine efforts to foster cooperation between the parties, particularly regarding the nation's governance. During her address, Prime Minister Fiame highlighted the current success between the existing ensure stability and progress for the country. According to Samoa's constitutional requirements, the MP who commands the majority of MPs should be elected Prime Minister. However, the Samoan government stated that Tuilaepa's move was another desperate attempt to stir political drama ahead of the no-confidence vote. Political upheaval hit Samoa just 3 days into 2025 when the chairman of the ruling FAST party and Samoa's Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, La'auli Lewatea Schmidt, confirmed he was facing criminal charges. On January 10th of this year, the Prime Minister removed La'auli from his ministerial role and dismissed 3 cabinet ministers. Despite this, La'auli remained the chair of the FAST party and announced the removal of the Prime Minister and 5 other ministers from the ruling party, which was contested by those removed. Fiame also dismissed 13 associate ministers. Fiame Mataafa is Samoa's first female prime minister and the daughter of the country's first prime minister. She took office after the controversial April 2021 election, which led to a political crisis when the caretaker of HRPP government blocked parliament to prevent her swearing in. Nuno Yasulele with your KVZK News. Finally, in our news for tonight from the region, Tonga's health ministry reported this week that the nation is experiencing a dengue fever outbreak with 65 active cases identified. In response to this situation, local media outlets have highlighted that preventive measures are being implemented in identified hotspots and high-risk areas to curb the spread of the disease. As part of the health response, more than 100 mosquito nets have been distributed to vulnerable communities to help protect residents from mosquito bites, which are the primary means of dengue transmission. In addition to distributing mosquito nets, health authorities are actively providing education and health advice to affected families, community members, and schools to raise awareness of dengue symptoms and prevention strategies. The confirmed cases are concentrated primarily in the region of Tonga Tapu, which has recorded 28 cases, followed by Vava'u with 25 cases and Ewa with 12 cases. Thankfully, health officials have confirmed that there have not been any reported deaths related to dengue fever at this time, which is a positive indication amidst the outbreak. The ministry continues to monitor the situation closely and urges the public to remain vigilant and take preventive measures. Nuno Yasulele with your KVZK News. Please stay tuned, American Samoa, for your weather and tide report coming up next.
Talafalava, American Samoa. The Senate will be holding a public hearing for Senate Bill number 3904 and 3905 on Wednesday, February 26th at 8:30 a.m. at the Fono Senate Chamber, Whangatongo, American Samoa. Senate Bill number 3904 is a bill for an act entitled, An Act Amending the Law to Allow for Separate Election Races of the Governor and Lieutenant Governor, amending sections 4.0103 and 4.0104 of the American Samoa Code Annotated. And Senate Bill number 3905 is a bill for an act entitled, An Act Amending the Qualifications of Candidates Running for the Offices of Governor and Lieutenant Governor, amending sections 4.0102 of the American Samoa Code Annotated. If you wish to testify or make a public statement on either one of these bills, you can sign up the morning of February 26th at the Fono Senate Chamber, or you can submit your commentary through the Senate website at www.asfono.gov, where you can fill out the online form and submit. Respectfully, dress code will be enforced. Gentlemen, tie and EFI Tonga, and women, pulatasi or dress. For any further questions, please call the Office of the Senate President at 633-5866 or 633-4565. Male fa'alo alulava fa'afetai.
In partnership with the Governor's ARPA Oversight Office and the Department of Public Works, the Development Bank of American Samoa will hold the Homeowner and Tradesman Networking Mixer Seminar on March 5th, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Lee Auditorium in Utulei. The Department of Public Safety's Office of Motor Vehicles at Tafuna and the Department of Public Safety's Record Office in Whangatongo will be closed from 8 a.m. to 12 noon on Friday, February 28, 2025 for the Department of Public Safety Inspection Day. The office will resume operation on the same day from 12 noon to 3 p.m. We apologize for the inconvenience. This is signed by DPS Commissioner Ta'anga S. Molinga. And that concludes tonight's edition of your KVZK TV News. Thanks for joining us. Tofa Seifua.